Okay, so here we go. We're going to continue on with animal snoops. I'm going to read, model a little bit of my own thinking, and then I'll send you out to do to do the same. Remember, we're thinking about annotating nonfiction, so we're looking for facts and information, and we're looking for ways to show our thinking. The hungry spy, spying and prying predators. The path home was one the eastern chipmunk had traveled 100 times before, under the ferns to the narrow tunnel into his burrow. The small animal ran briskly through the quiet Pennsylvania forest. You can see here I have created a V for visualization. I can visualize this little chipmunk's path. It talks about them being under ferns and into a narrow tunnel into his burrow. So that helps me to imagine his path. Suddenly, a flash and a sting. The startled chipmunk jumped. Dead leaves scattered. A sharp pain seared his haunches. Scrambling away, he glimpsed the motionless length of a timber rattlesnake. So, this was like the OMG, I can't believe that just happened moment. I wasn't expecting this. So, when you hear something unexpected or surprising, that's your exclamation mark, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. Poor little chipmunk. Okay. I did want to point out that you can absolutely use things, your text features like photographs or charts or graphs or illustrations or maps or any of those text features that you're many times given in nonfiction text. Absolutely use those to annotate. So, I wasn't real sure what to mark this one because I think it really kind of falled under a visualize, but I also marked it as a text evidence. And I wrote, this photograph helps me imagine the snake biting the chipmunk. So it helps me picture what this snake looks like, and it helps me picture him and his environment. Up here, the text mentions ferns, right? Well, I have schema. I know what a fern looks like, and I see ferns in the background here. So this really helps me visualize, but I also marked it as text evidence because it helps me imagine and kind of proves the text that I read. The ambush had succeeded. The deadly serpent had lain coiled and still for many hours, waiting. Even now, after striking, the snake was in no hurry. She would track down the chipmunk's lifeless body after her venom had done its work. So this really surprised me. I put another exclamation mark here because when I imagine animals hunting in the forest and the woods, I imagine them to attack their prey and immediately go after them. But this says that the snake doesn't immediately go after its prey. It says she would track down the chipmunk's body later. So this surprised me. That was something new and interesting. Patience is among the most practiced skills of a rattlesnake. Snooping is another. Before choosing an ambush site, timber rattlesnakes study the habits of their prey. Using their highly sensitive flickering tongues, the snakes use scent clues to reveal the routines of rodents and other tasty animals. I can make an inference here that must be really good hunters because it uses the word ambush, which I underlined as an important word, a keyword. It talks about them studying the habits of their prey. They're using their senses, their scent clues. And so I made an inference here that snakes are good hunters. Why is it an inference? It's an inference because the text never says that. The text doesn't say these snakes are really great hunters, but I infer that because of my schema and because of the clues in the text. Their tongues are so remarkable that they also pry into the hunting habits of other rattlesnakes. Scenting the difference between a recently fed rattlesnake and a hungry one, they use the clues to hide where another snake has dined and the hunting is likely to be successful. So I put a heart here, which might seem really weird because actually I don't like snakes at all. But this really fascinated me. So I marked it as like my favorite part on this page because I learned something new and fascinating, that they will actually use scents of other rattlesnakes that have eaten to find a spot where they might be able to find an easy meal. So I thought that was really fascinating. So the heart is going to mean several different things to you, and is, of course, going to depend on what kind of text you're reading. For many animals, snooping and spying can mean the difference between a full stomach and starvation. Some creatures, like the rattlesnake, spy on the habits of their prey. Others intercept private communication and think of the signals as a call to supper. So I made another inference here. I said I can infer that animals being able to snoop and spy increases their chances of survival. So because they have these habits and because they're sort of sneaky and they spy and snoop, they have a better chance of survival because of those habits. Photinus fireflies, for instance, broadcast their mating messages with a light show. These plant eating beetles flash luminescent abdomens to wow potential mates on warm North American summer nights. So I have this word circled. It's an unfamiliar word. I know it's a scientific name. I see how it's written and I see that it's in italics, but it's unfamiliar to me. So I've got it circled. And I have a great connection here. When I was a kid, we used to catch fireflies in my grandmother's backyard, and we would put them in just glass jars so that we could watch them and be amazed by them lighting up the way this is describing. A bigger relative is named Photorus. They also blink biological tail lights during courtship, but are not always looking for a mate. These fireflies are predators that eat smaller Photinus cousins. They spy on their blinking prey and follow the flashing beacon to a nighttime meal. I put like another, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? These guys hunt their relatives. It says they actually eat their smaller cousins. A flashing Photinus firefly looks good to his mate, but he looks delicious to his Photorus cousin. So I'm sending you off now to practice again your annotations. You're going to read paragraphs 20 through 26 this time. Be sure that you are showing your thinking as you go. As those thoughts pop in your head, stop and get them down on your annotations so that you don't forget them. And remember, our whole purpose for annotating is to prove that we are thinking while we're reading. And if we're thinking while we're reading, guess what we're most likely doing? Comprehending.